Educational Community Civic Series. I want to just, let you know why we do this and the importance of our Educational Community Civic Series and, looking at the community coming out for presidential elections, and knowing that, that is not the most important election in our lifetime. Local offices is the most important election, affects our lives 365 days a year. So I wanted to make sure that you knew a little of, why we do this and why we are here today.
Terrific.
Okay. And if you don't have any questions, we can get started.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, great. So first of all, I know a little about you and have read up about you, have been introduced to you, and etc. But for anyone who do not know, can you just tell us, who are you?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a practicing child welfare attorney. I've been focused on child welfare law throughout the 20 years that I've been working. And I've really focused my advocacy on the most vulnerable children and families, particularly children involved in the foster care system and their parents. I came to the law through social work. So I also have my master's degree in social work, and I was a practicing social worker before going to law school. So I've really found that, especially in this field, working in the courts, working with court-involved families and children, that having both that social work and legal background has really served me well, has served the families I'm working with really well, because I understand not only the legal complexities of what they're facing in the courtroom, but also the emotional complexities, social complexities. And our families end up in the courtroom because of significant crises going on in their lives. And we need to recognize that from the outset and really interact with our families from a trauma-informed focus. So I'm trained in that. So I'm trained in both the law as well as social work skills.
Okay. And so, so that goes right into my next question with your, you have been on the ground with the, fighting the good fight in Allegheny County for our children, our youth, and families. And so if you want to go a little bit more into, how can you take that passion and those skills and take it to the bench?
Yes. So over time, I have really developed a deep knowledge of the law. I have a lot of courtroom experience in the juvenile section in the juvenile court system. I've probably appeared in upwards of 8,000 hearings and have litigated 500 trials in this system. So I have not only that courtroom experience that is so important for a judge. You need judges who have a deep knowledge of the law, as well as have a lot of experience working through the rules of evidence and, applying those in their cases. But not only that, I've also had the connections with the community throughout my career, representing children directly, meeting with them in their homes, in their schools, meeting with their therapists and them together, meeting with their, any service providers that are working with them. So, I'm in the courtroom on a regular basis, but I really try to stay grounded in the community and the community's needs as I approach my work, because we need to know what's going on outside of the courtroom in order to best serve those who are coming into the courtroom. And so it's really just over time developing those skills and seeing that in this race where we have 9 openings on the Court of Common Pleas, a whole lot of really fantastic qualified candidates, but not many or very few, myself, having that juvenile law background. And I really wanted to make sure that we weren't forgetting about our children and families who interact with the court system. And wanting to, raise those issues, prioritize their needs, so that when we're looking at electing our 9 new judges, that we have people from all these different practice areas, and to make sure that we're not leaving behind our juvenile system.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, because, one of the very important things that I hope we all heard is when you said, you meet the youth and the families and our children where they are in the community. visiting our communities or visiting the communities is extremely important to know exactly what's going on in the communities, and just like you said, coming from the bench into our communities, give someone the privilege and knowledge to understand exactly what families are going through. So that is extremely important. I hope everyone heard when you when you express that, because that meeting someone and meeting families where they are is extremely important for these seats that we are talking about right now. So thank you so much for that. Now, when I was, talking to people, matter of fact, a lot of people have some great things to say about you. I wanted to make sure you know that. And even reading up on, reading some things and reading some articles about you, you describe yourself not as a politician, but as a dedicated servant to the community. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. So I think the biggest decision for me in terms of entering this race was becoming a temporary politician and my discomfort with that. So
okay.
This is the first time I've ever run for public office. It's not really something that I, saw myself doing. But the more that I thought about my service to the community and the trajectory of my career and my professional path, I realized I needed to get over my own fears and kind of pull up that courage to go through a little bit of the politics part in order to continue my journey of serving the community. And what I mean by that is that our court system is one of our basic functions of government, right? This is a government service that we're offering. We're offering people the opportunity to come into the courtroom, have their case heard on a level playing field before a judge who's working hard to create a safe space for people to tell their stories. And it's really important that judges see themselves within the continuum of a government service that is serving the people and serving the community where they are functioning. And that's really important to me. I don't ever want to lose sight of that. Yeah. And I think sometimes our court system, we kind of see it a little bit separate from the rest of our government services. And I think people need to hold their court system accountable just as they would any other service agency, any other government agency that needs to meet their needs. Yeah. And, part of that for me is creating a courtroom environment, if I am elected as judge, that is a safe space, that is a space where people feel like they're getting the opportunity to really present their fullest case so that a judge can fully understand their situation, make the best decision so that when they walk out of that courtroom, even if they're not happy with the outcome, they can still feel like the process was legitimate and fair and, good, and that they had a chance to be heard. And that they were being served by this government entity that's impacting their lives. So that's really important to me. And sometimes I think judges lose sight of that.
Yeah. And what I heard was, which is amazing, is that like you said, you have never ran for office before, and so what you're doing is that you're taking your passion, going back to my other question, you're taking your passion and your concern to another level, that you're able to make more changes that can be done. So that right there alone is amazing, to step out there. It has to be a very scary place to step out and have never ran for office, but knowing that, what that seat requires and knowing what that seat can also do, what that courtroom can also do. So thank you so much for that. Now, also, you had said, I want you to, go into, and it goes a lot with, I'm sure, that, like you said, you never ran for office. So, because my next question, you had stated that money does not belong in politics, especially not the judicial races. You stated that you vow not to take any high-priced political endorsements. Tell us, what does that mean? What do you mean you're no high political endorsements or any large donations from groups that can question your honesty to the community?
Absolutely. So in our judicial races, it's extremely important that any candidate be sure to not be beholden to any special interests or any groups that would try to wield power through the courts or through judges as a result of large financial contributions. Judges are entrusted with a special power within our society, within our democracy, within our government. And we're talking about being able to approach cases, each case on its own merits, on its own independent issues that are going on with it. And so in my mind, it's really important to be sure that I'm being careful in terms of keeping any funding streams. It's expensive to run a campaign. There's no question about that. It's become more expensive over time. So, money is a part of the process, but it's really important to keep any of those funding streams as far away from any special interests as possible. We're not, courts are not in the business of creating new laws or legislation. So in my mind, it's even more important to be sure to run a campaign with integrity around those issues.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Alyssa, because it's extremely important, especially I'm gonna keep going back to, where we are right now with these 9 judicial seats in our Court of Common Pleas. And to, it's extremely important that we out here in the community, make sure that we are doing our research on endorsements, on money being donated, large amount of money being donated to our our candidates or whomever. This is something that we should always keep an eye on, because it's about our community, not about the large donations and go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to say, I want to earn people's support through them meeting me, learning about me, and trusting in me as somebody who's putting them forth to serve. I don't want to earn people's support through pain. So
when I read that, I said, I had to reread it again. I said, wait a minute. So, and I have to say, thank you for that. And thank you for sharing that, with West End Power. And we're able to educate our community about, exactly who Alyssa Cowan is. So thank you so much for that. And of course, you have already stated, your vision and your mission and your passion for, what these seats could actually do throughout Allegheny County. Can you share with us, a little bit more about the change that we can literally see with these judicial seats with our children, youth, and families?
Yes, definitely. So I think any judge has an opportunity to be a leader in their community and a leader within their own court system. And so, for change to come about, we need people who are willing to take the reins of that leadership position and actually participate in the, hard and time-consuming conversations it takes to bring about change. Sometimes we have judges who are elected who just frankly aren't interested in taking part in those bigger systemic change kind of dialogues. And, they do their job, which is great, but we're not going to get anywhere in terms of addressing change if we don't have individuals who are committed to set aside the time in terms of the meetings, speaking with people, doing the reading, engaging in those conversations, taking the time to develop, work groups and trainings and everything that it does take to bring about change. So I am absolutely putting myself forth as somebody who would participate in those activities. I do that in my current office. I'm the attorney in my office who volunteers to participate in the work groups. Some of our work groups around opioid use disorders and ensuring treatment throughout the system, treatment for people who are at the ACJ, because a lot of times people's treatments are interrupted because of incarcerations. So, I've been working on that in my role, and also working on some interpersonal violence improvement in the courts, in terms of how we interact with our families who are dealing with interpersonal violence within their family system. So I'm already the person who carves out that time to participate in all of those work groups, and I would continue to be that person as a judge and provide that leadership. And then also just, personally, one thing that I would like to see happen, that I would provide some leadership around, is offering families and children more access to mediation services within the court system prior to the adversarial trial being scheduled. I think I'm also unique with some of the other candidates in that I'm barred in other jurisdictions too, and I've practiced in Washington, D.C. in addition to Pennsylvania. So I've been able to, get some other experiences, compare and contrast what happens in other jurisdictions. And when I was practicing in D.C., we had access to mediation in all of our cases, which allowed the attorneys and their clients a chance to all sit together at the table and realize that we had a lot more in common with our positions than we thought, and kind of get ourselves all working on behalf of a family more quickly and getting to the services that were needed, instead of spending a lot of time in the courtroom fighting with each other about documents and exhibits.
And you know what else? Like you said, it takes leadership. It takes leadership, and it goes back to what you said, that, as long as, if you're, taking the reins, to become the leader in what needs to be done in our courtroom. And as long as someone is walking out knowing that they were treated fair and just, and also on that same breath, we want to say, we have to look towards our leaders, because here at Western Power, like we always say, nothing changes if nothing changes.
Right.
So we have to make sure that we are right now making sure that we are not looking towards, he or she is really nice, or he or she is a good person, or it is about right now who can be our leaders to lead our community on these seats that is going to literally change our lives, and can be there for, the people coming behind us for decades to come. So I want to thank you so much for, going a little bit deeper with us on that. Thank you so much. And with these Commonwealth of the Court of Common Pleas seats, these judicial seats, can you tell us, we have talked a little bit every time, the importance of jury duty and what that means. Now, can you please, tell us a little bit of your opinion and how you feel about how the community has to take jury duty? How should we take this serious? What part do the community have to play on accepting jury duty?
Right. So we really probably do need a public campaign in terms of really educating people about the importance of jury duty, the honor of being selected to come and serve as a juror. And I mean, it is an honor. We are blessed to live in this democracy. Yes, our democracy needs a lot of work, but we also need to put a lot of work into it in order for it to really function for all of us. So I do think that we, and I think judges have a special responsibility in terms of being people who are getting that message out, trying to convey the message of the importance of being selected as a juror. There's no way for us to be able to provide a jury of someone's peers if we aren't pulling jurors from every single community of our county, and ensuring that we're encouraging people from every single community in our county to participate, and really honoring them for their service. We can do some things to honor people for their service that aren't particularly expensive or time consuming,
Yeah.
So we need to raise people up on a pedestal when they're getting those papers in the mail and coming to court. And to be honest, when I say like things that we can do that are, not expensive, I mean, greeting people with a friendly smile and helpful directions when they show up at the courthouse for their jury duty, providing some signage just on the streets. I can tell you, any attorney who practices frequently downtown is always giving out instructions for the jurors in terms of where they go, So we can definitely just make the process more welcoming in terms of when people actually show up, so that they can feel, a little bit of the honor of participating in that. Because it's absolutely critical that everybody who is being tried by a jury is being tried by a jury of their peers.
Yeah. Thank you so much, because like you said, it is an honor, and I just want to make sure that we are understanding that it takes all of us. It takes a part of all of us to make sure that we are, our families, our friends, our neighbors are being, have a jury of their peers. But it takes all of us to get involved and make sure that that's how that's how it works. So thank you so much for that. My next question to you is, now, I know that you may have seen a lot, dealing with our children, our youth, and our families. How can the courts reshape, or should it be reshaped when we're talking about handling our domestic violence, our mental health, and our addiction? Because yesterday, we literally, Western Power, we were tying addiction in with mental health, and we got educated that, there's another piece that needs to be added onto addiction and mental health, and that's domestic violence. So can you educate us, how can the courts reshape this ball of domestic violence and mental health, addiction, to help and support our communities and families?
Yeah, so I think if we, if we're looking at substance use disorders and addiction issues, it's really difficult in the United States to remember and educate ourselves that this is a medical condition, right? That this is a medical condition that needs treatment. And so much of our system in the US is designed as punishment, as a punishment in order to try to get people to move past their addictions. And that doesn't work.
It does not work.
Right. So I think we need to make sure that we're working from a framework of substance use as a medical condition that needs treatment, and needs treatment over an extended period of time, that this is not something that's going to be resolved quickly, and that this is something that's going to take a lot of effort and focus, and that, part of recovery is relapse. And we need to acknowledge that and make sure that we're supporting people through relapse rather than repunishing them all over again. So that's really important. And that is something that I would, as a judge, make sure that people walking into my courtroom knew that we were going to be addressing this as a medical issue and not a punishment, bad character kind of we often treat it as. For our, and we do see, co-occurrence of drug and alcohol, substance use issues, and mental health. Sometimes people don't have access to their needed mental health services, so they are trying to self-treat through, substances they can get on the streets. And that's, just as problematic. We need to ensure that we're connecting people with mental health, the mental health services they need, that they have, the ability to work with clinicians who are well-trained, able to give them a thorough evaluation, the most accurate diagnoses, and the best treatment for those diagnoses. We're fortunate in Allegheny County to have a wonderful network of mental health providers, as long as we're providing that information to people. It's still kept in the dark sometimes. It's still,
or what we experience is that, is picked and chosen who gets this, who gets the information. So thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, and that's all part of creating a level playing field, right? Is that we're getting the information out to everybody, not just certain subsets of the, community. And then our interpersonal violence, domestic violence issues, part of the work group that I've been working on with the courts. It's a pilot project here in Allegheny County. But one thing that I've learned through that project that has changed my practice already, and that's why we always need to be in this constant learning, self-improving mode, because we can all learn, as we go along, and we need to always be improving. But part of the practice of just for myself that has improved through this is, for the longest time, we were categorizing people as victim and batterer, right? And the victim was worthy of services and the batterer got punishment. And we just figured that was, the best way to go about it. And I mean, we absolutely need to honor victims and what they've been through and the courage it takes for them to connect with any kind of resources. But we were also doing a huge disservice to the community and frankly to a family system, especially when children are involved. Even if the so-called victim and batterer are ending their relationship, there's still that co-parenting involved with the child, right? There's still going to be that connection with each other through their child. So our work group is really focusing on making sure that we're engaging those who use violence just as much as those who are impacted by someone using violence, and treating everybody within the family system. Because that's the only way that we're going to actually improve the situation and create a new way of functioning for people. So that's really important. And I think applying those values to my courtroom of, okay, this is not a courtroom where we're going to quickly label and put people in a certain bucket and they're either worthy or not worthy of services. No, we need to try to do what we can for everybody who's showing up here, because everybody's experiencing this crisis in some way. And most likely people are still going to be interacting with each other outside of the courtroom. So we need to give them the healthiest tools we can for safe interactions outside of the courtroom.
Wow. Because, and I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, because what I want to, tap on, and I hope that we, everyone heard when you were saying that, every day is a chance to learn. Not, just because, you may sit on the bench, it's no longer you're learning what needs to be learned to move forward with a family, a community, or a person, so that's extremely important. That is extremely important. And also to, make sure that everyone is getting what anger management or self-esteem or batter abuse, and that's extremely as well, to make sure that the whole dynamic is getting looked at. So thank you so much for that. Now the next one, I'm saying it touched my heart here, and I wanted to know your why on this, because what you had stated, you said you had just completed your first year of law school, and I can only imagine you're happy, you're looking towards your future. And you even said you were brimming with excitement and optimism of your first year of law school. But sadly and shortly, You were exposed to the depersonalized, mechanical, and chaotic way in which most vulnerable people were pushed through a system that was literally designed to place them in this chaotic, vulnerable, mechanical system. Can you share a little bit with us about that?
Sure. Yes. So, as I mentioned, I had been a practicing social worker and had obtained my master's in social work prior to going to law school. So when I entered law school, I was all kinds of optimistic, change the world, social justice, here I come.
And when I was reading that, that's what I was thinking, like, you were ready to change the world.
Absolutely. So that was how I approached it. And it was interesting. There were a few things that humbled me my first year of law school. First, that many of my peers were not there for those same reasons. I thought, sure, everyone must have these same, aspirations in terms of trying to level the playing field and such. And realizing that many of my peers were not there for those reasons, which is fine,
Yeah.
But needing to carve out that space of friendships and camaraderie with other like-minded people, public interest oriented attorneys. So,
Wow.
there was that part of it. And then there was the part where you actually are, learning your trade and you're doing internships and obtaining internships and practicing and applying those skills that you're learning. Mm-hmm. And the summer internship between my first and second year of law school was in Philadelphia's law department in their human services section. And I was thrilled because that's where I wanted to be. I think it's really important, when we look at people who are stepping into these government roles, that they are doing it again from a service-oriented perspective. And it's often the government that's empowered, right? It's the government, in my cases, that's empowered to remove children from their families. It's the government that's empowered to incarcerate people, arrest people. So, to me, it's really important that, that we have people who are service oriented in those positions of power, in terms of, how people are wielding that kind of power and who we're entrusting with that kind of power. So I was thrilled to get this position with Philadelphia's law department. So excited that we were going to be in the courtroom. I had cases, doing the real deal, lawyer work. And my first couple of days in the courthouse, I felt like fairly, emotionally drained from it. And I was not the families who were the subject of these proceedings. So I was thinking, my goodness, if I'm this emotionally drained, worn out, exhausted, and this isn't even like my children who are at the center of this, how are these poor families feeling? Because, at that time, cases were scheduled, you'd have a whole bunch of cases all scheduled to show up at 9 a.m. And you would have children and parents confused and all in one big, huge waiting area that was cold and uncomfortable. And, and then just chaos in terms of whose cases were being called and people just shouting out, case number one, case number one. Everyone's like, is that me? Is that us? Who knows?
Yeah. And I'm not laughing I'm laughing because that is exactly how it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? That a person or people or, literally that's how you're valued. Like case number one, like, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm watching, like, I don't even know if the actual needed people are getting into the courtroom and know their case is being called, because it doesn't seem like a lot of work's being put into actually trying to find these people. It was literally just trying to get through that docket, like just to get through that docket, and not that time given to really like trying to understand what was going on. And no question, just some judges that were just relishing their role of authority, yelling at people, yelling at the attorneys, impatient. And it just, it was clear that this this was a system that was going to need, some help. Now, it
Yeah,
didn't scare me away from it, right? I
right,
finished law school. I've worked in child
right.
welfare and always say I've lasted. This is a career path with a lot of burnout. Because I have,
Wow.
to me, I have been able to enjoy at each step of the way the impact that I've been able to have in my current role.
Yeah,
So that is what has made it worthwhile to me throughout the whole entire time, even working within systems sometimes that
yeah,
are problematic.
yeah,
But being able to take the steps that I've taken to improve things along the way, and just being sure to approach all of my cases in a way that does not lead to that.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. And I want to make sure that we are hearing your drive, because like I said, this was your first year of law school.
yes,
Okay. And so you were faced with what you said 3 days later, it was extremely draining of how families were being treated, how people were being treated, how our youth and children were being treated. But what you chose to do was not cower down and leave the profession. What you chose to do was drive forward, and now seeking the court a seat at the Court of Common Pleas, and you're saying that to bring even more change to this. So I want to make sure that we are hearing, what you're saying here and the value of what you are saying at the same time. So I want to thank you so much for that. And also, I want to make sure that we are hearing that, because I know what we go through in the court system. I know what our families go through. I know what our neighbors and our community go through. But to have someone, you know, also know from your first year in law school, and it still remembers, you still remember, and it still affects you like it was just today.
yes,
So you know what I'm saying. So that is what I took out of what we talked about with your past and that's what I got out of that. Because what happens is, like life. Once life shows up, a lot of things we forget about, or a lot of things we may have was concerned about, or that we were passionate about no longer is there. But
right.
to still have that, this is my why. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
um okay, now I want to ask you, tell us something about yourself that you are extremely proud of, but only a few people know. Maybe your immediate family, your personal family, maybe and a couple of personal friends. Something that you are extremely proud of, but you just don't brag about it.
uh, yeah, that's a great question. So I think something that I'm proud of that I don't talk about all that often, which is kind of, it's completely different than the law and practicing in
Yeah.
law.
Yes. We like to hear it could be about anything.
Yeah. So this is I'm not currently doing this because my kids got older and they require, a lot of work and activities and such. But when we first moved back to Pittsburgh and my kids were still little and not as, involved in all their various activities, I had done the training to become a docent at the Frick House and Museum. And it was kind of like my secret side gig,
To
on
become
the
a what?
weekends,
What you
where I would
to
give
become what?
a docent at the Frick Museum in
What's
Point
that?
Breeze. Yes, yes.
What's a docent?
So somebody who takes people on tours of the grounds in the house
Oh,
and
okay.
the museum and such. So like essentially a tour guide who's done a ton of training. And I really have a passion for like Pittsburgh history, right? We were such a like historically rich community. And I've always really enjoyed our history here, our museums, the Carnegie Museum. And I thought, boy, wouldn't it be fun to do a little bit of volunteer work that's around like Pittsburgh history, you know?
Wow. Okay. See, I never heard of it as an adult. Would you say a docent?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. I never heard of it as that, but thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself that helps us know a little bit more about you. So now my next question to you is, Alyssa Cowan, why you?
Yes. So I really, it kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation where it took some courage to put myself out here in the political realm. But I really, truly believe that I have acquired the depth of knowledge over time with the work that I've done, the number of different positions that I've had in this field, as well as have developed the compassion and the empathy and really the passion for this work through the professional positions that I've had, as well as just my community work over time. I had started as a volunteer with Habitat for Humanity when I was 14, and then became president of our campus chapter in college. I mean, I've been, working on behalf of our community has been near and dear to my heart since I was young, And I really think that sets me apart. I think that sets me apart from other typical traditional attorneys, and also, those individuals who go on to become judges, oftentimes are a little bit more in their silos, a little bit more within their, within their kind of law office world, and not necessarily have that history of connecting with people, communities, and that community engagement that I think I bring to the table, and that I'm excited about bringing to the table. And I've learned that through this, what seemed like an intimidating campaign process has truly been a joy, because I get to have more connections and conversations with people like yourself, Terri. So I was finding it's actually fabulous,
Oh my goodness. So I'm glad, because a lot of people, when they get to this point, it's like, some campaigns can be very, very draining, maybe. But like you said, this is your first time. So you're finding it extremely exciting. You're meeting new people, you're learning new things. So yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so that's your why. That's, why that you can bring something different and value to the seat. Now, before couple more questions for you, and before we wrap up, I want to make sure that there may be people that have different questions that I may have had, or they may want to elaborate even more on some things that we talked about. There's a couple people on the chat that said they used to work at the center at the museum. Jackie says she used to work at the museum. And so a couple people is, saying hi to you. And so they may have various different questions that I did not ask, or they may even want to volunteer. How can someone get in touch with you?
Yes. So my campaign website is just Vote Cowan, votecowan.com. So very easy to find. And there's our email, phone number. If people are interested in volunteering, you can input your information and get connected with volunteering. So that's the easiest way to just get connected and to stay up to date. We also have a Facebook page too. So you can just Google Alyssa Cowan as well. And that's a great way to stay up to date with what's going on with the campaign and connect with us.
Yeah. Now, if someone wanted to, had more conversation with you, maybe something that we talked about, is that also the same way that they can get in touch with you that way as well?
Absolutely. So there's an email address on there, which goes to my email. So
yeah. And she does answer, folks.
it comes to me. So
Okay.
And I'm always happy to connect with people, have conversations, and yeah, just talk to people. So I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay. Now, Alyssa, before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to say, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, so first, just thank you for this opportunity to connect with you and speak with you today. I do find that these just give me the energy and like recommitting to the pursuit, not only for this judicial campaign, but also just frankly for this work,
Yeah. Yes. Very important. Very important.
For continuing this work, because I am dedicated to this work. Regardless of the outcome of this campaign. But I really hope that I have earned some support, have earned some votes for the May 18th primary. I really am dedicated to improving systems for our children and families. That is my focus. And I do think that sets me apart from the other candidates in the field who have had different focus areas over time. And I think with our 9 seats opening, we really have a responsibility to make sure that we are electing a wide array of people with different backgrounds to ensure that we are fully serving all of the members of the public who are coming through the courtroom and able to meet all of their needs. My goal is to continue to work in the juvenile section of the family division. That's where I want to be assigned. That's where I would want to stay put.
Oh, okay.
Not to use that as not to use that position as a stepping stone to get on to something else, which many judges do. And I think that opportunity is exactly right because we have a few openings within our juvenile section. And because the candidates we have so many wonderful criminal justice background candidates, I think they'll be easily assigned to the criminal court. So I do think we need people over there in the juvenile section family division. And I think I'm a great candidate for that role.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for stopping past here at West Empower, to conversate with us, to educate us. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Alyssa Cowan running for Court of Common Pleas. I want to thank you again for taking out time today to stop past and conversate with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Terri.